next year will be a 10-year anniversary of this agency. Yeah.
Beautiful. Congrats, man. And I don't want to misquote it, but I saw it's 19 million in revenue this year projected.
Yeah, our goal was 16.5 and we're already at 19 and it's halfway through the year. So we're moving fast.
Amazing, man. It's amazing, man. Congrats. And you guys are 100% law firms too, correct?
99% law firms. You got a couple friends that like are high school buddies that want you to work with them. You know what I mean? So there's a couple exceptions, but yeah, we're mostly law firms.
And have you been exclusively pretty much law firms since the inception, the whole time?
Yeah, that's been by design. I accidentally stumbled into legal marketing back in 2008. I spoke at a conference and I gave a presentation. After the presentation, I left a bunch of business cards, and that turned into like my first 6 clients at my first agency. And then I've been kind of immersed in the legal industry since then. So
interesting. So it wasn't like a contrived
by design. It wasn't like a strategy. No, I just accidentally spoke on the wrong stage or the right stage, however you look at it.
I mean, it's wild too, because so you guys are only SEO for the most part too, right?
For the most part. I mean, we do SEO, we do some design, right? But that's just more of a byproduct of like us having to do that stuff. But I'd say our core competency is SEO. Yes.
Yeah, I want to talk more about that. But what I was going to say is that there's a lot of agencies in the space that I think are around that size, rankings, law rank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's obviously Scorpions of the world. I think I saw they get 150 million ballpark region, right? There's SMB team that I see is doing very, very well. A bit of a different model, but the point is that everyone's targeting legal. We also do legal as well. And there's so much business to go around in this space. And I don't think it's just legal too, because part of one of the things that we teach a lot in coaching this program is specialization. I think in today's market, especially, you have to be specialized, right? It's too competitive. It's too saturated, whether you're working with lawyers or e-commerce or dentists or doctors. If you're trying to do everything, I have a saying, you're a jack of all trades, but a master of none, right? It's the difference between doing legal marketing and e-commerce marketing. It's night and day, right? Like I look at an e-commerce website and I'm like, I don't know if I can help you. It's not really what I do anymore. And you're able to build so much subject matter expertise when you only work with a single vertical, right? And something that I've seen you do very, very well is networking, right? So, I mean, when you look at how you've acquired clients in the past, has it mostly come from networking? Like what's been your main strategy to get clients for the business over the years?
I'd say like up until about like 3 years ago, it was really built around my personal brand. You just kind of build a personal brand. You kind of enter a market, you don't know anybody, you start to network, that network starts to compound. One client turns into 3 clients, 3 clients turned into 5, right? Next thing you know, people are talking about you, right? And then from there, you start to get asked to speak on stage at certain conferences. Then you're now broadcasting to a bigger audience. And then your client base kind of grows. And then there's the whole scaling the agency. And then from there, then you really kind of double down. And like for me, I wrote a book, right? And so that was really a game changer for our agency, just because, I wrote the book. I didn't just like ghostwrite it, have somebody do it for me. I literally like put in, 20 years of practical insights into this book, and I made it so valuable. And I give away more books than I sell. We ship out probably between 300 and 500 books a month.
Oh, wow.
I even cover the cost of shipping. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So like, that's a big part of our marketing plan now, I guess. Mm-hmm.
I get that. I've written a couple of books, published them on Amazon as well, and I sell them for as cheap as possible because I don't care to make money off it. We actually have probably lost money on the books overall, but I think I'm a big content marketer. I make video.
You're one of the best at it, dude.
I've been doing it for a while, and what matters is consumption, right? And that's the same thing with a book, right? It's not about making the money on the front end, right? If you look at like the front end marketing costs, right? It's about getting people to consume that information, especially a book. I think in a world where we're dominated by short clip media, right? That comes and goes. A book is something that people still do want to read, and the depth that you can go and build a relationship with somebody. It's one of the more powerful things that we can do. And I've been seeing your ads for it recently too. Have you just been started advertising it, or has it been something you've been doing for?
No, so that's all new. So that's all new. Is like we're just trying to capture people at different parts of the funnel now. And so like I said, like up until about 3 years ago, like I really didn't do much marketing at all. It was all built upon reputation and personal brand. Then I wrote the book, and that was big push. And so now we're kind of just kind of dabbling a little bit more in some of the stuff that you do. Like a lot of the stuff that you do is inspiring. I see your stuff all the time too. And I'm like, how can we be more like Orion? He's really good at the marketing, you know what I mean? And so, so your stuff is inspiring me as well.
So talk to me about the personal brand stuff. So like what type of things did you do build that recognition of yourself and the relationships that you've been able to build over the years in the market?
Yeah, I guess I'm like a 24-year overnight success story, right? Like I got into SEO back in like 2001, right? Really early days, right? And so, just over the course of time, you just kind of meet people and your network grows, like both from the SEO side and the digital marketing side, but then also from the legal side and the niche that I cater to, and just the relationships to compound and, and you build a following on social media. A lot of times people reach out to me, to be honest, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I do SEO. They're just like, oh, I loved following your trip to Italy with your family, and it's inspiring, like, that you bought your son a new BMW. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Like, believe it or not, I think people just like to do business with those that they like and trust, right? 100%. And so when you see somebody that kind of, I'm a family man, a dad, right? But I also have a digital marketing agency too, right? And that's really been a big part of my growth, is just my personal character, I guess, online,
So SEO is the core offer, right? But like, what would you say, like just ballpark, what is like the percentage of your portfolio that the SEO revenue makes up versus the field?
Yeah, I'd say 93% is SEO and 7%. 7% is like paid and one-off dev projects and stuff like that. Yeah.
And still, I mean, in today's, call it climate, if you will, are you still bullish on SEO as a service and especially for your law firm clients?
No, I mean, we don't know what the future holds, right? We're just kind of operating on what is, and what is working, that can certainly change, and we might have to pivot, but for now it's working. We measure success. We're all looking at the same scoreboard with all of our clients. It's one thing to like say, hey, great news, like you're ranking number 3 now for this keyword. Like all of that is just like a means to an end. At the end of the day, like our clients really care about, the cost per lead, cost per case. Those are the metrics that they truly care about. And if they don't care about those metrics after they speak with us, they will, when we kind of get engaged, right?
So that's another big kind of teaching point, coaching point inside of the Blueprint training, is to sell results. Right. People, I mean, if you want to build a business, the best way to do that in this space is to make people money, point blank. Right. But a lot of CEOs are especially uncomfortable by that. Right. And I think it's because SEO has become a bit of I don't call it an indirect acquisition channel, but it's not like paid search, right? Paid search, you spend a certain amount of money. Before anything else, you're going to be like, how much am I going to make off of this, right? What's my expected return? And it's a lot easier to do that and forecast that because of the data, the cost per click, et cetera, right? And advertising platforms are generally easier to do that. But SEO is something that takes time. It's wildly unpredictable, right? So how, like when you're pitching a client or, having a conversation with somebody, how are you framing it? Are you framing it as results based first? Or are you framing it like just kind of talk to me through that process and that pitch?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to management of expectations right from the very start, right? Otherwise, you're just going to lose a client after 3 months, right? So everything comes down to management of expectations. We had a client that we told him, that it was going to be probably about 18 months and about $30,000 a month in investment before you even saw your first lead, right? So that's a clear management of expectations, right? This is somebody that had a site that wanted to compete in the birth injury space nationwide, right? He just got like a $4.5 million settlement last week, right? So he already made back the investment from that, right? So as long as you can kind of manage expectations, and the other thing that we do is we leverage a lot of the case studies that we have, right? Because we're so niche focused, like I know what the future looks like. I know what their future looks like. Right? Because everything that we're doing is no different if you are in Dallas or if you're in Chicago, right? The competition might be a little different, but the strategy is all going to be the same. And so I just know what, publishing 10 pages of content will look like in 3 months. And I know what publishing 100 pages of content will look like in 3 months. Right. And so I can give them pretty good forecast for that kind of stuff.
How did you close them? You told them 18 months at 30 grand. I mean, like, talk me through, you must be an excellent salesperson, right? Because I think a lot of people here, by the way, we are in front of a live audience. I'm going to open up to people. If people want to say hi to Jason in the chat, I just realized too that people are commenting in here. I apologize. Rana, can you make sure that everyone can post in the chat here too, so we can ask Jason some questions? I'm going to open it up. But like, talk to me through like a pitch like that, right? So it's going to take time. Injury, I say this all the time. I've been marketing for a while. There's probably nothing more competitive in the SEO space than injury, especially in markets like Miami, California. Brutal, right?
Yeah.
I'm on board with the fact that it's going to take time, but how do you go about still getting somebody to buy in at that price point in that timeline?
You know what? Like, I really don't care if they don't buy in. Like, I'd rather be honest and upfront and manage the expectation. And I'd rather do that than lie to them and think and have them believe that they're going to be ranking in 6 months with a $5,000 budget, right? Like, I care too much about my personal reputation than I do about like making money. Maybe if you were to ask me that question 15 years ago, Ryan, when I needed this money to basically make sure that I'm like can pay my mortgage, maybe my sales process would have been a little bit different, but I'd rather be honest about what it's going to really take based on their objective. This was a domain name that like was literally like just parked, right? It was a good domain name. It's birthinjurylawyer.com, right? It's like, right? It's an amazing domain name, but there's no content on it, had no links, right? So like, how are you going to get that site to rank nationwide, right, in 3 months? It's just not possible, right? And so I'd rather just manage the expectations. And then if they say no, that's fine, right? But I don't want to see that person at a conference in 6 months and I've got to like hide behind a bush because he's walking over here and I was able to get like 30 grand out of him. You know what I mean? So like, I care too much about my reputation. And I think people know that now about me. And that's why they'll play the game that I play, because I'm just an honest and I'm a straight shooter about this kind of stuff.
All right, people, the chat is officially open. I figured it out. Jason is here, $19 million SEO agency owner. He's here to answer your questions. Fire away in the chat. I'll go ahead and read them out to him as they come in. So, excuse me. Talk to me about your SEO process if you're comfortable with that, right? Again, brutally competitive, birth injury, national competition. What's your approach? I mean, is it like what about your service makes it unique in a very competitive space? Is there anything that you feel like you might be doing differently than other people? Talk to me about kind of like your overall SEO process.
Yeah. So because we focus just strictly on like one like niche, right? We don't have to develop different strategies every day, right? It's not like we're going from a call with a plumber in Chicago, and next thing I know, I'm talking with an e-commerce website, right, in Dubai, and you know what I mean? So it's not like that, right? We have a system and a strategy that works, so much so that like our team, we kind of operate like a McDonald's, I guess, if you will, right? We have systems and processes. We know it works. We know how we're going to write our content. We know how we're going to interlink things. We know how we're going to build our navigations. We know how we're going to build our links, we can replicate that, right? And so that's the only way you can really scale an agency, I think, in my mind. And so because we have that, it's just very simple. And as we have that, then we build like tools that help make our jobs easier, right? So like SEO is that game where, if you think about it, like SEO is like somebody makes a mistake on a website, right? They accidentally linked to something that's broken or the page is loading too slowly. Human beings are making mistakes. Then you have somebody else that has to diagnose the mistake, right? They run screaming frog crawls or whatever else. And then you have to fix the mistake, right? And it's this repetitive kind of cycle of SEO. And so we've basically kind of built systems to kind of prevent people from making the mistake. We're running crawls of all of our clients that go up to the cloud, and it automatically detects like if we're doing things incorrectly, and it automatically creates tickets for our engineers to fix them, right? So like, we've kind of eliminated a lot of the human element of SEO, and we've kind of automated a lot of that stuff to make sure that we're doing things right.
Love it. Systems and processes are music to my ears. Again, anybody in this program knows we're kind of covering all the bases here, right? You're doing it for me. Specialization, we call it productization, really, which is just taking systems and processes and turning it into we call it like the Model T line, right? The initial assembly line. And you just can't do it without specialization. And I agree. I mean, I don't think that by any means I am the most talented SEO out there. I go on SEO Twitter nowadays. I'm like, man, some of this stuff, I don't even know what these people are talking about anymore.
Yeah.
But we're able to get results for our clients. One, I have an amazing partner who handles operations and stays in much more in the weeds on SEO stuff. But when you have a plan of attack, like what my biggest pitch when I talk to an attorney is, I'm like, look, like I can tell you exactly what we need to do for the next 12 months for your website off the top of my head, because we've done it a million times over and over again. And I can show you our SOPs that we're not throwing spaghetti against the wall. And like you might think that you need custom work. And like, yeah, absolutely. There's going to be customizations of this to meet the current status of your website. But for the most part, SEO is really about sweat equity, right? There's not a really, it's about sweat equity, and it's about continuously improving the quality of your content, the quality of your link sources, the quality and velocity of your reviews, et cetera, right? And you can only do that if you've got a documented system and process that you're iterating on and building on over time. Because to your point, if you're working on an e-commerce store, it's a completely different process than something else. So specialization and processes are incredibly important. So we got a couple questions coming in from the community. Ben asked, is there anything that you consume or read to stay on top of business and SEO? Anyone you follow, anything that you read? Any book recommendations too?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm staring at a whole shelf of SEO books right now over there. And so I love to keep up with this stuff. Like, I think that's what makes me more of a threat in the SEO space, is because I'm an SEO first and I'm a CEO second. And so I'm constantly keeping up. I'm speaking at Hrefs this year, right? So I'm tied in with some of the most important tools. I keep up with that. I watch all their videos. I write for Search Engine Journal, places like that. As far as books go, what is a good book? There's so many of them. I'd say The Art of SEO is probably like the Bible, right? I think it's probably the thickest book. That's a good one if you're just trying to kind of get into this. There's another one that's kind of old. I think it's called Search Engine Secrets by Danny something. It's a black book. It's another good one. It's a little bit older, but I think it has a lot of good principles. And then I wrote a book on Honest SEO, right? I can't forget about that one. So that one's actually probably, that's my recommendation. If you want, you can pick that up. But here's one thing about us, right? So like, I don't pretend to be the smartest person in the room when it comes to SEO. We have a budget where we bring in subject matter experts to audit our clients' work, and the insights that we learn from there, like we apply to all of our clients. So every single month, we've got new subject matter experts coming in to audit our clients' work to give us a different perspective on their skill sets, right?
Nice. Another question from another Benjamin, maybe a silly question. No silly questions here, guys. Don't feel bad. Ask whatever you want. How would you start over your agency and or personal brand with this market saturation and competition? How would you get your first client? How would you get to $10,000 a month, etc.?
Okay. I think the key there is just to ask for it. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I would have knew that so long ago, hey, first you have to make sure you have, it's one thing to have confidence, but it's also, you have to have competence, right? You need competence and confidence to be successful in owning an agency. I think there's people that have a lot of confidence, but they just lack the competence, right? They don't really know how to get the results. They're really good at selling. And that's one way to kind of build a reputation and a brand. And then you figure that out later, all of that stuff, once you have revenue, and that's okay. I would probably, if I were to do it over, I would do it the same way that I did it, where you just kind of really learn SEO, learn from as many people as you can, like sign up for courses and training like this, watch as many YouTube videos as you can, get your first client to pay you, $3,500 a month or $5,000 a month, right? And then or maybe even discounted, right? And then just really cut your teeth on that and learn as much as you can and practice, build that up to be a good case study, and then leverage that case study to get your second client, right? And then leverage those two case studies to get your third and fourth and fifth client. And now you have revenue to kind of bring people in to kind of support you. But in the early days, you're probably going to be doing everything. You're going to be the account manager, you're going to be the link builder, you're going to be whatever, and you just have to accept that. But that's how I would basically kind of do it if I were to do it over.
Yeah. And Benjamin too, just to piggyback off what Jason said, I mean, I think just because he's 15 years in the future of where you are right now doesn't mean that what he did doesn't still apply right now. Like I would double down on the fact that he picked the right vertical, right? He picked the right niche. I would double down on the fact that he spent time building content, creating a personal brand, networking, speaking, putting in the time and effort, and building a reputation for himself in the space. And then, just on top of that too, like I wouldn't shy away from competitive markets. Like, well, I maybe missed the beginning part of this conversation, but Jason's doing, call it 20 million. There's 3 other competing agencies off the top of my head that I knew were doing the same thing, all in the legal space. There's a couple of giants like Scorpion that are doing over 100 million from my understanding. And there's plenty of business to go around. there's more than enough business to go around. We're all in the same, I'm in the same space too, right? I mean, we're probably competing for a lot of the same accounts, but it doesn't matter, right? I mean, so competition can be a good thing. It can mean that it's a validated vertical. Like legal is a good vertical. Now, I wouldn't just jump into legal because I do think there's a certain level of experience that you should have, because lawyers have been burned so many times before in the past that, like, if you don't have the track record and experience, it's going to be difficult to jump in and close a top injury law firm.
That's right.
But again, it doesn't mean that you can't do it, right? So just because that there's competition around you, there's so much business to go around. The internet is a very big place. There is plenty of business to go around. So don't shy away from verticals. Home services is another one. It's brutally competitive, but like it's brutally competitive because it's a good service, right? Like my air conditioning is on the fritz again. And like the first thing I'm doing is going to Google and I'm calling local service ads and I'm calling Maps Pack results, right? Exactly. And I'm hiring those people that come off of it, right? So like we talked about in the beginning, if your service ends up in a conversion for your clients, it's a good place to be, right?
100%.
So don't shy away from it. Everything that Jason said, and also too, again, like his path that he followed 15 years ago is it's just good business. It's sound business principles. Like when you specialize in a single vertical and you commit and dedicate yourself to continuously improving your craft, if you start walking now and you continue and look up in a year from now, you're going to be in a completely different place than you are right now, right? Yeah. Keep walking, keep putting one foot in front of the other.
And embrace your failures. Like, man, like you're going to make a lot of mistakes and they're not really mistakes. They're just lessons to kind of get you to the next level, lessons to get you to the next level. Like embrace and appreciate your failures and the mistakes that you make. You're going to lose clients, because you did something, and you're going to be really pissed off to lose that revenue. But the lesson learned there will help you preserve a future client, right? So just kind of accept that.
Absolutely. Doug asked, would love to hear about any tips you might have on making the transition from working on the business to working on the business and not in the business, especially when you are first trying to transition to that.
Yeah. This is an exercise I would say, delegation is super important. I did an executive MBA program at Stanford last week because I'm constantly kind of seeking knowledge, right? I'm always looking to kind of level up. And so one of the professors basically said, show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities, right? So, just take a look at where you're investing your time. I would probably say, spend like a full week documenting every single thing that you do. Like if you're checking email for 3 hours, if you're doing this for 2 hours, if you're doing accounting for 1 hour, right? Check your schedule, write down everything. Then from there, figure out how much would you be willing to pay somebody else to do that task. And I bet you'd find that you're probably spending majority of your time doing stuff that you could probably pay somebody else $10 or $15 an hour to do. So I would basically just spend a lot of time just kind of understanding where you're spending most of your time. And then if you can kind of delegate a lot of that stuff, let's say you delegate 60% of that stuff, now that occupied a lot more time that you can focus on kind of thinking more high level, more strategic.
A great book for that too is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Yeah, I haven't read that yet, but I gotta get that one. Mm-hmm.
Highly suggest it. Yeah, Dan's a beast. He's had a lot of success.
It's funny. My coach, his name is Cameron Harold. His coach is Dan, right? So it's kind of like that byproduct.
Trickle down effect.
Exactly right.
All right. So Reed has a question. He wants to go into he's thinking about niching for dental with SEO, but he's worried that SEO wouldn't be as good of a service to them as TikTok ads or Facebook ads. How can you go about determining which acquisition platform is best for dentists? Does it even matter if SEO is not the best acquisition channel for them? Yeah.
Well, I think dental is, I think every channel could make sense, right? You just have to like test it, right? I don't know what your area of expertise is, if you're more of a TikTok marketer or if you're a SEO, but I would double down on what you know best, right? And offer that as a service first, because I think that they all will work, right? Some will work better than others, but you won't know it unless you test it. Every single market is different. Every single personality is different. You might have a dentist that has the best personality in the world that's just so good on Instagram and so good on TikTok, right? If you have somebody that's more of an introvert, right, it might not be the same on TikTok. You might have to kind of go SEO, right? So I think every case is a little different. You just have to test it, but I would double down on what your area of expertise is first.
Yeah. Something to think about too, Reed. I mean, one, you can always ask them to, right? I mean, like if you haven't gotten into this space before, I know it's difficult and it's much easier said than done. Getting survey data is actually not as easy as it just seems to be. Like, yeah, just go ask the dentist, like, because they might not just volunteer that information for you anyways. But like, you can have conversations, you can ask people who might have been in the space, but also just like put yourself in the shoes of the customer, right? I think that's the best thing that you can do. Like you have a dentist, right? Like, or if you're moving to a new city, how would you find a dentist, right? I think that my opinion on dental, like I just know a lot of people that do SEO for dentists and they have a pretty good success rate. Actually, a friend of mine just sold his company that was doing it. He had a good success rate with it. I do think that the Maps pack is an effective way to acquire new leads for dentists. Anything in search engines I think will work. I do think that there's a little bit of medical always scares me a little bit when there's insurance involved, because it kind of skews the acquisition process a little bit. Like, doctors, for example, like you can't just go to Google and Google a doctor, because there's this country, like they would just make it so damn difficult to get healthcare, to find a provider. Plastic surgeon is a little bit different because that's elective, right? So you can just go to Google and find those people, but you just kind of have to ask yourself, if you were one of those customers, how would you do it? And again, that's one of the reasons why like we really went all in on legal, because depending on the practice area, but for most practice areas in legal, it is a Google search, right? A lot of legal cases, people don't want to post on Instagram to be like, hey, I got a DUI. Does anybody know a good attorney, right?
Exactly.
So Google offers a private search. And yeah, so it lends very well to that acquisition process. And this is something I talk a lot about too, Jason, just for context in the course, in the program, right? Like, versus a gym, for example, like I don't know if I would just Google a gym near me and sign up for that gym. I think it's maybe a little bit more of a friend telling you. I think it's a little bit more of a social type of a play. And I think that, like, we talked a little bit about like the existential things in SEO, but I think that's kind of like the big macro thing that's hurting a lot of SEOs now, is that in the past, SEO was a good fit for everybody because Google was just 10 blue links and like everyone was Googling everything and you were getting a ton of traffic and it converted very well. But Google's changed their product a lot, and other platforms have also fractured how people are searching. We have the TikToks of the world now. We have Instagram, we have social, we have YouTube, we have all these different platforms now that is fracturing attention and how we spend our time online. And Google is no longer the true doorway to the internet that it once was. And if we look at offering that as a service, one of the things that I'm adamant about teaching and coaching here is that like you have to make your clients money. If you're just selling, and there's nothing wrong with selling keyword rankings and traffic, because that is a carrot, if you will, to the overall conversion process. But like, if you're only driving rankings and traffic and it doesn't ultimately end up in conversions, you're just not going to have that client very long. And it's tough to build a long-term business on something that isn't providing the best ultimate outcome for your clients, especially if you want to go market and charge more. So just some thoughts on that, Reed. If you have any follow-ups on that, please ask. Raf asked, Jason, in your experience, what is the best way to attract a potential SEO client like a dentist or a law firm? Is it SEO, Google Ads, social ads, networking, etc.?
Yes to all, but I would say lead with education, right? Maybe you do a webinar about like, how dentists should be leveraging SEO to get more patients, right? And then you could maybe, put a Facebook ad that's pretty cheap so that can get out to dentists, right? And you get them to kind of enroll for a webinar. And you can maybe even automate that, right? Where you don't have to be on the webinar, but like just lead with education, right? Because like people want to they want to learn, they want to be the number one ranking website in their market. And if you can show them like what it takes to do that, and you teach them about link building, you teach them about how to create content, and right now, you're educating them and people want to work with those that educated them, right? So I think that would probably be the best way to do that if you are, just getting started, or you already in that game and you want to get more clients. Just lead with education first.
Yeah, just my own thoughts on that too, Raf. I'm obviously a big content first person too. I think that content is really the glue between everything marketing and sales, right? I have a consulting company too, where we do fractional work, and we're so much less focused on like SEO and this and that, but really like the proper marriage between marketing and sales. And it's really content assets that we can provide at marketing, sales, et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I also think that you lean into what you do best. Like, I'm not a networker, man. It's just not what I do. You put me at a conference and I will sit in the corner, sip my drink, and go home early and be like, yeah, it's just not what I do. If I'm not speaking on the stage, sending me to a conference is a complete waste of resources.
Sure.
Complete, but I know other people. Jason, I think you're one of them, that you put them in a conference, you'll talk to everybody in the entire place, and you'll walk away with new connections, new relationships, new friendships that will nurture over time. And,
that's right.
Those connections turn into other connections, which turn into introductions, which turns into business over time, so lean into what you know how to do. That's why I advertise. It's easier for me. I'm good at creating a couple videos, putting them online, and then going back to my friends and family at home. It just lends well to what I do. So I think a little bit of self-awareness here and understanding what it is you want to do, because ultimately this is a daily thing. Like, you have to promote your business on a daily basis. So you kind of have to like doing it or not mind doing it. It's not something that you're going to want to, quit doing it. So
that's right. Yeah. I publish like short videos. Like, if you follow me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, or, I make like these little like 1 minute, 2 minute videos. I post them every single day. Right. But I'm just very consistent. And so out of the 10,000 people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn, right, every single day they see a short little video about Jason talking about SEO this, SEO that, right? So if they have an SEO question or they want to get somebody to do SEO, I'm one of the people that they're seeing consistently post this stuff, right? So just do that in your industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul asked, how do you handle clients that need other marketing help? For example, website, email, automation. Do you form strategic referral partnerships with other agencies, or do you go ahead and give your clients the services and deliver that in-house?
So I learned a valuable lesson here. Probably about 5 years ago, this is right before the pandemic. So we had a client that wanted us to do paid social. It was organic social. It was organic social media. And like, hey, can you do this? And we're like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And we signed him up and we said, we'll figure it out later. And this is the only client that we were doing this for. And then the pandemic took place, and I get a phone call from this client, like screaming my head off, right? Saying, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what the heck is going on right now? He's like, are you guys like not in tune what's going on with the world? Like, the whole world is shutting down right now, and you're over here posting on my organic social media to have a happy St. Patrick's Day. You know what I mean? Whatever it was, right? It was just scheduled. Yeah. And so I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm not making any money on organic social. And I was sitting in the drive-thru In-N-Out Burger, right? And I'm about to get a burger, and I'm like, you know what? Somebody probably went through the In-N-Out Burger and wanted to get a chicken sandwich, right? But they don't sell chicken sandwiches. Just stick with what you're good at, right? So that's a valuable lesson. So I don't do organic social media anymore. That was a lesson, and I'd rather just stick with what I'm really good at and double down on that, and then find partners that I can refer. Like, if somebody else does something way better at like email marketing or something, I'd rather just refer them to the best, and that I could vouch for them, but I don't want to, I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert in everything.
Is there anything that I totally agree. And I have so many war stories. I'm actually going through now. There's, Scorpion locks these attorneys into contracts where like, they own all their assets. It's mind blowing to me, Jason. I talk to these attorneys that have so much education. I'm like, you're signing a 36-month contract with this company who owns all your assets. Like, what are you doing, bro? You're a lawyer. Like, why are you signing this contract? So anyway, so we get a lot of leads in. They're like, yeah, but I'm locked in with Scorpion, and we've tried to work with Scorpion before. They do not let you touch shit on the website. So anyways, we have to re-platform and move them off of it.
Yep.
Jason, every time we get stuck in this, even though we charge for it, I'm like, why am I doing this? Why are we building this website? Because inevitably you give somebody an inch when it comes to the website, they take your whole arm, right? Like, oh, I want to change everything. Like, and it becomes this blown up scope. There's just, people always ask me like, how much would you have to charge to do it? I'm like, I'd probably have to charge $500,000 to build a website. I'm serious. Like, it's such a nightmare. I don't like doing it. Sure. And we also don't have like a true web PM to handle that. So like a lot of the work falls on our SEO team or me, and it's just a mess, right?
Sure.
But a question I have for you though is that like, is there anything that you will handle in-house because it's like kind of tangential to SEO, like a PPC or like a web design?
Yeah.
Or
So
you
we
just
we do
refer
that.
everything out?
Yep. So we do pay-per-click. We do pay-per-click marketing. We actually do a pretty good job at that, just because like we know the campaigns that we're running. You know, if we're managing a $500,000 per month budget in one market, like we're learning a lot, right, from that campaign, that, you know, the next client that's in a different market like gets those insights, right? So that's the really competitive advantage there of why we kind of do pay-per-click like that. Web design, yeah, we have a full web design team, you know, but we're pretty expensive. Like if somebody wanted like a cheap website, they can go get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like if they want us to kind of do it, we offer that as a service. We just charge premium for it. And then everything that you're talking about as far as like migrating websites off of like other platforms and stuff like that, like we've been doing that for so long that we've got like such a good system for that, and people. So like we've kind of systemized that because we get it so often that it's pretty easy for us to do that. Whenever we get a new client, we basically rebuild the whole website anyway. So if they're on like Elementor, like we don't work with Elementor, right? We're going to build the website on the, you know, on the framework that we use, right? You know, so.
Josh asked, how are you doing on time, by the way, Jason? I just realized this was only a 30-minute invite.
No, I'm good. Yep.
Okay.
I'm good. Yep.
Okay. We'll go for a little bit longer. If you guys have any final questions, go ahead and bomb them in. So somebody just had a quick follow-up. Jason, do you mind sharing what the premium price is if possible? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
For websites? Yeah. You know, I mean, you know, usually like between $20,000 and $75,000, you know what I mean? To kind of do it like a website, right?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Okay, so Josh asked, what's your process and analysis like for evaluating how long and how much money it will cost to rank new prospective websites? So like, how do you evaluate how long it's going to take and how much it'll cost to rank a website?
Yeah. So, you know, it's all in the SERP, right? You know, so you just kind of study the top ranking websites that are already there, right? And you look at how much content do they have published? How long have they been doing it for? What's their cadence of publishing new content? What does their backlink profile look like? You know, so if I go into a market and the site has 100 pages of content indexed and, you know, they have 133 referring domains, then I know that it's a pretty obtainable market to compete in, right? However, if I go into another market where you got like a Morgan and Morgan, right? They're a big law firm, right, in Florida, you know, and they've got 7,000 pages indexed and they've got 9,000 referring domains linking back to them, right? Then it's like, okay, it's a completely different story, right? So it really comes down to what you're trying to compete for and who you're competing with.
Gosh, if you're not familiar with the traffic projection tool, that's exactly why we built it. And also, too, exciting news, we just added in local forecasting. So we can now filter keywords that are showing the maps pack. And we've also built in now maps pack specific click-through rate forecasting for that too. So Josh, if you need help with that, Elaine will get you access to it. Yeah. Reed had a quick follow about Elementor. Yeah. Is there something wrong with it for SEO or other reasons?
No, I think, you know, Elementor is great. It's like a page builder. You know, our systems are not built on Elementor, right? So remember how I talked about earlier in the thing where we have like automation that will basically crawl websites and send it up and create tickets. Like we do things a certain way. And so our sites need to be designed and built in a certain way for our systems to kind of adhere to that. So it's not that Elementor is bad. It's just, it didn't work with our automation.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be straight up. I don't like Elementor. We have clients that come in with Elementor, and for something that is supposed to make page building easier, I think it makes it harder in a lot of ways. So, the good thing about Elementor is that it can be a lot faster to build, like, especially if you're building custom and the developer knows how to use Elementor, he can probably build it in half the time as opposed to building it in PHP. But it will then have same thing for us, just like changing images.
They're just heavy websites, stuff. You know, they're heavy websites.
Yeah, it's not my favorite thing. Does anybody else have any more questions for Jason while we got him? He's been very gracious with us, giving us almost an hour of his time. He's a busy guy. Fire away now. Umair says, "What's up, Jason? Good to see you."
Good to see you too, buddy. We were in Vietnam together, Chiang Mai together. Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, Jason, you lost a lot of weight. Congratulations, man.
Thank you so much, man. You know,
I saw you.
I was focused so much on building my wealth that I neglected my health. And so, now it's just a whole different.
What have you What did you do?
You know what it was like, to be honest, I belong to a group called YPO, and YPO, you have people that are like holding you accountable to things. And so I was sitting there, I weighed 234 pounds, I'm sitting there drinking a Coca-Cola, like not really like thinking, and so the topic of like, how can we hold each other accountable? And I'm like, you know what? I haven't been to have a physical in like 2 years. And like, you're a smart guy. Like, why haven't you had a physical in like 2 years? I'm like, I don't know. I feel okay. And so I went, and that night had dinner with my wife, and we're sitting there, and by coincidence, there's a doctor and his wife sitting next to us, right? That's not a coincidence. There's no coincidences in this world, right? And so he's like, all right, I tell him my story. He's like, come in next week. I'll get you in. We're booked up for months, but come in next week. I'll get you in. So I went in, I got blood work done, and my A1C, my sugar was high. Obviously, I was overweight. I was snoring. Like, I just had a lot of stuff that I didn't realize. And so he basically said, listen, you're a pre-diabetic. You have two choices. You could either lose 50 pounds or you can take medication for the rest of your life, right? And I'm just like, all right, I'm in. And so at that point, it was just making changes with my life, from exercising to eating right to intermittent fasting to, all of the stuff that is just so like you don't have to think, like, but you just neglect to do it. Like, if you actually do it, like, you start to see the results. And so that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of healthy eating, healthy living. I think that it, even just from like a optimal business performance, you feel better about yourself. You have more energy, you have more mental clarity. So much of the food that we eat in this country is just garbage too. And you kind of realize it too. I was an athlete my whole life, so I was always very active. But as I got older, I'm 6'2", I'm a bigger guy. So I got up to like 250 at one point when I was building my first business too. And it's because, you're sitting there, you're eating out of convenience, you're not that, you're just like, I'm in grind mode right now. I don't give a shit about anything else. And it catches up to you the older that you get. And as soon as I started learning more about food and nutrition and actually just like reading the labels of stuff, like, it's kind of wild what passes for food in this country, and like what they put in it to make it taste good and make it addictive and a lot of things. And, it's just a matter of building better habits, I think too. And then it's weird too, is that once you start eating healthier and understanding what is in food, then it just doesn't feel right anymore. Like, I can't drink a Coke anymore. Like, I can't sit down.
Oh no. No, I tried, like, my wife bought some cupcakes from this like cupcake place, and I felt like after I ate it, I was poisoning I didn't eat the whole thing. I ate like a couple bites. I felt like I was poisoning my body. Like, it just felt like really weird, like, yeah, it's crazy.
What's up, Umair? You got a question?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, all right. Show your face. All right. What's up, man? All right, cool. So we got time for one more question from Paul. He said, maybe I missed it, but can you expand more about customer expectations? You touched on it earlier. Selling customers looking for long-term results. What do you do for customers looking to get quicker wins?
Negative SEO. No, I'm just kidding. So quicker wins. I mean, like, well, I think, I think is if you kind of assess a website, like you just look for, where can you get the most bang for their buck, right? It might be like just kind of going in and optimizing their Google My Business first, right? It really comes down to the prioritization of like the strategy, right? Where you can get the quicker wins. And that might be in the terms of, like I said, like optimizing GMB, getting the clients to like fix their 3-star review on Google, right? So just kind of start there with a low-hanging fruit. Sometimes it's just technical, like SEO, right? You kind of log in and it's like, holy shit, like half the website has no index, on it. You know what I mean? Like, fix that, right? But like, I don't like to tell our clients that there are quick wins. I like to tell clients that every situation is different, and so the strategies that we deploy, we might be able to see quick wins. What does quick wins look like? 60, 90 days, right? Other times it might not be till like 9 months before we even get our first lead, but I'd rather lead with that, just so that the expectations are set and clear, and they're not basically hounding me or my team saying, hey, it's been 6 weeks, this isn't working, right? Like, that's not fun. I hate those conversations. And I've had so many of those conversations in the past that's probably the reason why I'm so clear with setting expectations.
Yeah, I think understanding what their expectation of a quick win is, right? And to me, if it's digging into it and they're like, look, I've just been burned so many times before in the past, like, I need to see some sort of results before I, continue to move forward. In that case, I would turn GVP. You can usually turn stuff in rankings and movements around pretty quickly. improving
Mm-hmm.
some content that they have on their website, getting them some movement, showing them keyword ranking improvements in Search Console, and being like, look, we're moving in the right direction. Can we get your buy-in? Yes or no? And if they're looking for conversions faster, then we'll just use paid. We do a lot more paid search. More, injury, it's tough because like they just have to spend so much. But
Sure.
if people are like, I need phone calls, I need leads, then we're gonna start with paid search retainer, and then we'll tack on SEO.
100%. That's right. In fact, I've turned clients away. Like if somebody says I've only got a $5,000 budget and they're in Los Angeles, you know what I mean? I'm like, take your family to Disneyland. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to take your money. It's not going to work. Right.
Yeah. And part of it too, just like if somebody is has expectations of quick stuff, one, they're probably not going to be the best client because they're probably not as educated on the subject as they should be. Two, I found this working with, because the one of the great things about the legal space is that the budgets are just naturally higher because of the built-in understanding and education awareness in the market. Like you'd be hard pressed to find a lawyer that didn't know about SEO or that they needed it, right? But the challenge is that it's extremely top heavy. Like really 1% of law firms kind of dominate, the Morgan and Morgans of the world. Like it's a very top heavy market, and there's a lot of lawyers that are making $200 a year, but they're solopreneurs. And they still have a budget, $3,000-$4,000 to invest in marketing, but that's all that they have. And it's really hard to work with people like that because they're pushing all their chips onto black in SEO. And it's like, are you really able to spend 10 to 15% of your top line revenue for something that's not going to turn around in probably the next year because you're a small firm,
Exactly.
So we're doing a little bit more coaching and consulting and trying to put together kind of like a blueprint style training package for smaller firms. But the challenge with them is they just never do it. Like lawyers just need somebody to do it for them. That's why agencies are a great fit for them. But, I think just additional conversations and everything Jason said is spot on. Like you always want to overhedge with honesty. And I think what will actually end up happening for you is that it's going to reciprocate, not in a way that scares them away, but they're going to be like, cool. Like I actually trust you now because I know that you're not trying to swindle me. And
and you do that in the sales process, not after you sell them. You know what I mean? So it's like, it is what it is, like somebody asked the question, like, what is your lowest SEO package for law firms? Like for most of our clients, it's like $8,500 a month. Right. And that's not in a competitive market. If you come to me and you're like in Miami, you know what I mean? Like, $8,500 is not going to stretch you very far in Miami. You know what I mean? Like that you're looking more like north of $25,000 per month, right? Maybe more, right? So it just kind of depends.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, man, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. Hold up one of your books back there so we can plug it.
This one would be most applicable. I think Amir, you have that. You have a copy of this one. Yeah, signed copy. So it's on Amazon. You can pick it up. I appreciate it. I think you'll get some value from it. And follow me on Instagram. I create videos like this every single day with some tips and stuff. So
awesome. Thanks so much, Jason. Appreciate everyone tuning in, asking questions. We'll be back tomorrow. Content Bootcamp Part 3. Going to be talking about editing and publishing content on client websites. So make sure to show up tomorrow. Jason, appreciate it again. We'll talk soon, brother. All right.
All right, Ryan. Thanks, pal. Yeah, appreciate it.
Bye.